Yes.
Right.
I see you. Wonderful.
Okay, right.
How have you been? Thank you so much for, I mean, God, it's a real honor to have a chat with you. Now my screen's gone funny.
Well,
Yeah.
I like your background. That's for real, not a virtual one.
It's a real one. No, I was thinking of virtual, and I thought virtual's going to have so much movement, especially when you're wearing a headset. It ends up looking really, really weird. But yeah, no, I thought this is part of my toy room. So this is my mask wall, and then I put up some of your artwork, and I've got a couple more pieces down here, and I thought we can kind of...
that Vanessa piece you've got by your left shoulder. Yeah. So many people wanted that. You got
I know.
One guy, whatever he's giving you, I'll give you double.
He wrote to me as well. So I really, really respect that. You stuck to your guns and went that way. That was really good. There's not many people nowadays, especially in the toy collecting field, who have those kind of morals.
Yeah,
so
I've heard some stories.
It's scary. It's I don't know what's happened in the last couple of years. I mean, it's just bizarre. I think people are just reliving their childhood now, and especially during Corona, it's kind of kept people a little bit more reflective, less to do or less work, so they're spending time at home and then reliving their childhood. But it's insane. I mean, same with your art. I mean, gosh, there's so many things I want to chat with you, but since we're talking about your art, I remember, I think I wrote to you 2014, 2015, and then I never realized you wrote back to me. And at that time, your art's been sitting on the page since that time, and nothing's moved. And then suddenly, I don't know, like once you put it up now again, it all vanished within a couple of weeks.
Oh, it has. I mean, I'm so gutted, but there was a whole year of art which I wasn't able to collect. I never imagined the popularity of the mask work. There was I in Wales working in isolation, rushing into the post office every week. We had no internet, so no feedback. Some of you guys, you very young guys then, you wrote to the comic, but they never passed anything on to me.
Yeah. I mean, I think you bring up a whole thing. I'm just so fascinated with the whole process that kind of you went through, because as you said, you're in Wales, and so where was the head office? Where were you sending the stuff to? In London. So you'd mail it to them.
Yeah.
So there's quite a bit of time lag with up and down. Would you speak to them on the phone?
It was more than that, because I had to photocopy all my pencils to go off to copyright promotions who are handling the Kenner Parker continuity.
Yeah.
Honestly, do you see the style book?
Yes.
I used to have one. Now, come on, they were putting my work against the style book. Then it's just, and I don't want to be rude, there's just a few girls in the office, and they didn't know what to do. So we had our own style sheets, which were done by Ian Kennedy. So they had those. Copyright Promotion had those. So certainly the little pilot issue that went out, I think I only had 4 pages of it. And Copyright Promotion sent the comics back. Oh, your mat tracker doesn't look like the mat tracker we've got here. So we ran out of time. So what I was doing, I had to face Ian Kennedy, mat tracker, side view, back, and 3/4 shots. So I was photocopying and reducing his heads, stick them on top of mine, and it all went through.
Oh man!
Of course, then we went into the proper comic with my first story being Kamikaze.
So,
I mean, at the time, I was so in love with Japan. I'd been there in '82, and just overwhelmed with the whole manga thing. It hadn't really come into that point. I mean, so I was just seeing it afresh. So if you look at my art, there's loads of like manga zoom lines coming out on the page. But our Kenner Parker were not happy because I wasn't featuring the toys enough. It's just this cyborg sumo.
Yeah, there's very few vehicles actually in those first few.
First
few
they
parts.
hadn't been released that day at that point.
Yeah.
They found the Hawk and Bruce Satter's.
So I believe there's not this. This Switchblade is from Kamikaze. There we go. There's a sumo wrestler down in the bottom.
Oh, yeah.
I'll bring him up.
So did you get any of the toys?
They sent me the first of the toy range.
Yeah.
So, Miles Graham's playing there. I actually had, so I could hold it that angle. I was suspending them from my angle points and trying hold still. Rocking one wire. Yeah.
So you gave it to did your kids play with the toys as well? They must have had a blast.
So after that, I could do all the cool angles. Not all the artists got the toys.
Okay.
But they decided they really liked the way I drew them.
Yeah.
And it made such a difference in scripting because I could really get the action out and the perspective. The vehicles are really coming at you. It was so much more fun.
I mean, I think that's what we hear a lot about your art, and I mean, I feel personally as well, the hyper-realism is a term that's thrown around a lot. You really kind of bring that out in the vehicles. I mean, they look exactly like the toys. It's really surreal.
Well, that became such a bonus for me because once Ken Park had seen the first few pages after I'd had the toys, they said, "We don't want to see proofs anymore. We don't want to send photographs. You're doing a great job. You're making our toys look really cool, man. Just get on with it." That was so much more pleasurable for me then, because nitpicking with some office girl in London, I think might even be based in Birmingham. They weren't artists. They were just office staff. It's looking at the style sheets. And if you had a copy of the Red Book, so few angles for the covers. No more approvals. Everything ran like clockwork after that. And the scripts were really cool because they were written by Peter Milligan, who was on the cusp of his huge American career.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, about 18 months in, he really took off with Americans and no more mask. Sorry, guys, I've got more high profile stuff. He wanted to do adult comics anyway. I had two little kids at the time who were absolutely chuffed having these toys around, and they were coming in to see me drawing them.
I'm curious, what was your favorite Mask agent?
I liked everyone. There wasn't one character whom I wasn't happy drawing. The villains, good guys, bad guys, it doesn't matter. They were all great. They were very strong.
What's your favorite to draw?
I do like Vanessa.
Okay.
Bruce Sato I liked because, as I said, I visited Japan. My wife's half Japanese, so it means her mother's full Japanese, or was. And my kids are quarter Japanese.
Yeah.
And there's also a bit of kung fu element as well, which I was always fond of. Miles Mayhem, I always used to feel sorry for the guy. He got so close, nearly got so close. Villains are always interesting.
Yeah.
Their motivation is sometimes very strong.
What about vehicles? Did you have any particular vehicle that you really thought was the most fun to draw?
Actually, like Thunderhawk, I thought he was crazy. The doors changing into wings, yeah. again,
Yeah, the wings, right?
so James Bond, you know, almost James Bond cars.
Yeah. I guess it's the iconic vehicle of masks. As kids, it was Thunderhawk and I guess Condor were probably the more common toys that kids would get, just
yeah,
because
the
Thunderhawk was iconic, and Condor, the motorcycle, just because it was small as well, so it was a bit more affordable to be able to get the two together. Yeah, so very few people would get the big toys. I never had all these big ones as a kid. Well, at least as a small kid. As a big kid now, I got them. But...
Oh well, Kenneth Parker never sent me Boulder Hill. I managed to. But my daughter bought me one on eBay.
Okay.
She said, "When you got all the vehicles, you might as well put half of them in there."
Exactly.
It's really for her and her a brother to play with.
Yeah. That was wonderful.
She's quite a bit older than him. She's 7 years older than him. Yeah, the James Bond thing, you know, the transforming car, you know, the Aston Martin with the revolving number plates and the machine guns.
Exactly. Yep.
You know, it's
actually, I think even Vanessa's car, I mean Manta. I remember, if I'm not wrong, there's a James Bond vehicle that has got the missiles that can.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
exactly right. Missiles that pop out from the hood. Yeah. So I think that's quite iconic. It pops up. So yeah, you're right. I think I would imagine Kenner had some influence from James Bond-esque type things.
I think so. I mean, I can imagine some, you know, young kid, you know, watching a James Bond film back in the 60s and thinking, I'd have to design some toys like this.
I mean, as the story goes, from what I hear, is it started off as a concept called 80-wheelers, as was a play on words on the semi-trailers. And one of the designers had been working in the toy shop and saw the semi-trailer, and I thought, hey, wouldn't it be cool if I could transform that? And then he used that as a springboard to figure out how to go on. And it was very different initially. I think they were meant to be truck drivers. So Matt Tracker was a trucker, and so was Miles Hayham, a trucker. Some of the original concept art, and the toys initially when they made it, have that. I've got one Miles Mayhem where he's dressed up as a trucker, as a prototype toy. So it's quite interesting seeing how things evolved, thankfully.
Oh, come on, that'd be too much like Chris Christopherson in Convoy, wouldn't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, the magic of MASK is the international locations, because we certainly use them in the comic.
Yeah.
And how the beers, it's gone 5 o'clock.
What was your childhood inspiration? What did you enjoy? Were you an avid comic reader? Did you play with toys?
Oh yeah, I was a comic reader. I was a comic reader. I mean, I used to go to movies 2-3 times a week, because our local cinema, you know, it used to have change a bill 3 times in 1 week. The Saturday and Sunday bill was always like the big Western at the time, which had been released 6 months earlier everywhere else. Tuesday or Wednesday, I couldn't go till I was 16. They tended to be a bit naughty. Or they were, then Thursday and Friday would be horror films. And then, you know, back to the big blockbuster. All kind of, you know, adventurous stuff about what he was. But, you know, I never remember seeing any musicals turn up, for instance. It was a lot of adventure. So I was very much caught up with adventure. And of course, the thought of a young Valley's boy making movies was impossible then. Now, you know, now it's digital, it's changed. So, as I said, I liked color comics. So I didn't buy many of the Yankees. The first one I saw was The Eagle with Dundee. And there was Boy's World, some amazing Wrath of the Gods, which written by Michael Moorcock, the ghost written. Then there was Ranger with the fabulous Don Lawrence's Trigger Empire. I had this passion, this lust for color. It's funny.
And then you went black and white.
Yeah, but I think it was. I was introduced to American comics by a Canadian friend, and because they were block color, right into the 70s, they were block color. They attempted some sort of shading. So I started looking behind the color at the line work and Neil Adams.
Yeah.
Oh, with Tom Palmer's inking.
Yeah.
That got me totally hooked. Even, Jack Kirby. I mean, the color was irrelevant. I can remember reading Jack Kirby in the black and white horror comics he used to draw when he was quite young. So, gradually I got my lust for color turned into a lust for black and white. I still think, as far as comics are concerned, black and white is the thing. I don't read comics anymore. I haven't brought any 6,000 miles of it to here. I can't get into digital. I can't. I've got a Kindle, which is never charged. It's like a Kindle one. I like the smell of the newsprint.
I think you hit it right there. It's that tactile, the other senses. It's not just your eyes. It's the sound of the rustling of the paper. It's the smell you get. It's so different. I really do think.
Having a sneaky beer when you cut out for a second.
Yeah, no, but I fully get. I'm not a. I'd rather read my print than look at it on a website or on an internet page. What was your favorite comic genre?
I always, I grew up with boys' adventure comics in the late 50s and 60s. And, it's the kind of comics I wanted to do. I discovered Marvel comics in the 60s. Certainly my style, a big image, was very influenced by people like Jim Steranko and Jack Kirby.
Yeah.
And let's face it, so most of the guys in 2018, it definitely had an American layout. I saw my first Dan Day comic back in 1960. I was in the doctor's surgery. I was about to have my tonsils taken out. And of course, I didn't know anything about it at the time, being 2 years old. But because Frank Hampson used reference, he had the models built, and then the characters are his own studio staff for the most part. So I just fell in love with the realism, and I wanted to capture it myself. That's why I eventually moved on to do Dan Day.
So did you always know you were going to be a comic artist as a kid? Was that
From
your ambition?
10, when I first saw that Dan Day, I got a serious interest in it. But
wonderful.
I still wanted to be a filmmaker. When I was 15, I was in Super 8. I thought it was the high-tech, real state-of-the-art at the time.
It was. And
I said to a friend of mine, look, if I shell out and buy several Super 8 cartridges, let's do a horror movie. Right? Oh, it was always low budget. I want to do like a Welsh druid mummy type thing. I said, I'll show you what I mean. And I got an exercise book, and I spent about a week doing the storyboard in color. And I said, this is what we're going to do. And they said, really? I said, yeah, look, you be that character, you be that character, you be that. Sort your own costumes out. Meet me on Sunday at Dinas Rock, because Dinas Rock was which is outside Glenheath, where I grew up, is one of the locations of Arthur's tomb. And there's an assumed cave network there. I said, well, we'll go and do it. We'll go and film in there. And I hadn't given a thought to the lighting. I turned up on the Sunday with my Super 8 camera and my stock of Super 8 film. No one came. Nobody came. So after calling them every name under the sun, I found myself stuck with the storyboard. And because I'd done an exercise book and I could turn the pages, I said, oh, this is a comic.
Yeah.
I'm going to do comics. And I did a lot of them. Yeah, so that was the turning point for me. after that, I filled several comic books, the exercise books with comic artwork. Then I started taking it seriously because the marooned lines were very professional. Yeah, so as I said, this Canadian friend introduced me to the late 60s sort of pop art, Jim Steranko and type stuff. You know?
Yeah.
So it was, for me, from then, it was Jim Steranko, Neil Adams, and Jack Kirby. And I decided to be kind of an amalgam of all three. Jack Kirby, come the early 70s, was experimenting with textual backgrounds, you know, which easy done in computer these days. But he was cutting and pasting, you know, newspaper cuttings, you know, trying to make these alien worlds. It's fascinating stuff. Yeah, so I got sucked deeper and deeper and deeper into comics. Almost by accident, really. Because at 10 years old, when I saw my first Frank Hampson, I thought I'm never going to be able to draw like that. Yeah, I was drawing. I liked drawing at the time. My Uncle Dave was my surrogate father. He encouraged me to draw. We played plastic soldiers together, a bit like M.A.S.K.
Yeah.
And he insisted on giving every plastic soldier a name. So that sort of, you know, made me start taking things a little bit more seriously.
Yeah.
I'm really blessed for that. So we were actually, you know, telling stories with plastic soldiers. I've always worked as an artist ever since I was kicked out of art college for my bad attitude. You know, I was so critical of the tutors; they weren't very good. And, what really upset me was the visiting tutors who were coming in 2-3 times a week. They were bringing their own paid-for projects and getting us guys and girls to work on them. And I had the audacity to say, if this idea sells, do I get anything for it? And all the others, you know, ooh!
Yeah.
Well, you're getting the experience. Yeah, but you're getting the money.
Yeah.
So, there was only one old school art teacher, you know, and Philip, he was the life drawing and technical drawing teacher as well. He was on his last year. He was about to retire, and the other students were horrible to him. You know, why do we have to learn to draw? You know, I was on a graphic design course. And it was in the 1970s. 1971, 72. Drawing, no. And comics, no. Finished, over. No one, you'll never make a living out of comics. You'll never make a living out of graphic design either. You're not disciplined enough. Why did you switch to fine art? I said, but look, I like drawing comics. Comics and graphics. I'm on a graphics design course.
Yeah.
It's the nearest I'm going to get. And every project I put in, I did comics for that. Oh, no. They said, that's it. That's enough. Switch to fine art or leave. I was already working freelance as an illustrator for, they were a very small company at the time, an American company called Pier 1 Imports. They're still going, they're just called Pier now. They used to import exotic products from all over the world. Much more ethnic when they started.
Okay.
They had a weekly ad in the Evening Standard, London Evening Standard, because the reproduction of newspapers back then was awful. So they wanted everything done in black and white line. So I was showing the Buddha statues in black and white line.
Yeah.
So basically, I had a regular job. So when I got the ultimatum from the art college students, you know, switch to fine art and go, I said, I'm going. Well, what are you going to do then? Because you'll never make a career as a graphic designer. I said, well, actually, I've been offered a full-time job as, I don't know what I used to call it. That's a trendy name for the art guy at the time. It's gone out of fashion again, as everyone who does graphic design work. Anyway, they were gobsmacked, and I said, by the branch I first worked for were run by three Indian brothers. Really cool guys. You know, they had a company show for. Used to drive them to India and back. But so most of the products were Indian based, which was great for me to draw because just like with MASK toys, you know, I had the actual product there.
Yeah.
And I used to take it back to my little flat. And they then said, well, you're getting a full-time job now. We're going to move you to South Kensington in London. And we set up a studio there. But can you do photography as well, you know, because we're going to do color pictures? Yeah, I've done that. I set up a photographic studio. And said, can you do some, you know, really nice three-dimensional signs for the shop as well? Yeah. I said, I'm still doing advertisements at the time. Going in one afternoon a week into the advertising agency who handled the Evening Standard ad, Broccoli Haskell and Allen, big agency. They ran me 24/7. I was working freelance at the time, you know, so I did 6 days a week. So I got rid of it. And, so I've jumped ahead a bit, but I was just explaining the gap I had after I left the work. I moved back to Wales, immediately found a job in an art studio, a three-man art studio, as it was linked to a chain of newspapers, the Thompson Regional newspapers. So I was the only one who could draw. Well, we ever said, you remember they had math books, you know, like style books, you could cut an illustration and glue it on.
Yeah.
So, you know, the big shops all wanted their theme, you know, like lumberjack cutting down prices.
Yeah.
I had lots of fun. But while I was working there in 1976, the sub-editor's room was next to the art studio. And this really nice lady comes in and said, hey, David, you like, I was doing illustrating editorial features as well. You really like comics, don't you? We want to have a children's page in the Merthyr Express. We can give you an 8x3, 8-inch by 3 column space.
Yeah.
Which I thought was nice. And can you write and draw a story for it? Yeah. Okay. So that was the start. My first published work. I thought I'd go into it and I'd have an interview simply because it was set in Wales. This was called Looking Glass Library because all the books in this library had to be read from the inside. And the two little kids and their dog went off adventures inside the books.
Cool.
It lasted 1 year, and the advertising manager said, "If we give me advertising space for that strip," and so this is 76 to 77. In 79, they released a tabloid called the Model Star. The classified managing editor said, "Oh, I sent this idea in America. There's a character called a superhero called Captain Classified. And he said, we can use the name. He can sell classified advertising. We do a comic strip. We'll give you half-page tabloid."
Wow.
You know, it's kind of good space. You know. And of course, 2000 AD had been launched for 2 years, and Judge Dredd was the big thing. So my Captain Classified looked like Judge Dredd. Captain Classified Star Ranger. He ended up not selling advertising, it ran for nearly 2 years as a half-page tabloid, which was getting paid for, top of my studio job. I was being paid at like overtime rates, so it was good. I was getting a bit of money, but of course it moved me into being a professional comic strip artist because I was being paid. So I joined the Society of Strip Illustrators, contributed to their monthly newsletter. This is what I've done, that little extra. And then Pat Mills, the guy who created 2000 AD, spotted my work, the Captain Classified work, in the newsletter, and he said he rang me up in the studio, the Creative Services studio, in Wales, just on the edge of Brecon Beacons. He said, David, have you seen Slain in 2018? I hadn't. I said, oh, yes, Celtic characters. Yes, you're a Celt then. Do you want to try out for it? Which I did. And I got the gig for 2 seasons. But I was alternating with Glenn Fabry, who's now a comics legend. Glenn was drawing 1 page to my 4. And I mean, I was putting a reasonable amount of detail in, but Glenn was like a pre-Raphaelite, He was, doing these beautiful pages. I started happy with this, Pat, because one day people are going to hold up one of my pages to one of Glenn's and said, look how much better this guy is. Yes, they don't hold up the other 3 as well, because without me, I would have missed all the deadlines.
I'm really curious. How did you get started in Mask?
Editor rang me up. Oh, David, your Man Who Couldn't Die story in the summer special. I'm starting a new kids adventure comic called Mask. And he said, you want to try for it? Yeah, I'm good. I'd never heard of Mask. I said, I wanted to work, regular work. I said, yes, sounds good. He explained the concept, sent me Ian Kennedy's style sheets. And I thought, wow, the masks made the guy superheroes. And I just loved the concept of the cars, who could disguise themselves. I was never into Transformers. I found it too alien for me. They were cool, they looked great. I'd seen the Transformers back in '82 in Japan in the shops.
Yeah.
Whoa, they were really good, but the story was a bit stupid. These intelligent aliens coming to Earth disguising themselves as trucks. But this one, it was believable. Wow, and of course it still is today.
Yeah.
I mean, people really want to reimagine it, the whole concept.
Exactly.
It does work. Some of the masks were a bit over the top, like Lester Sludge's. I mean, where all that mud came from, yeah. I don't know. But the others were much more. Yeah, I mean, they're kind of connected to the brain, kind of projecting the protagonist's own powers, really. I write about that in my book. We only use a small potential of the brain.
Yeah.
The masks were also very similar to Professor X's, the helmet that he wore, and he could connect with all the mutants in the world. So it made a lot of sense to me, and a lot of sense to Pete Milligan as well. So it was a lot of fun. As I said, I don't have a copy of the pilot issue. I think it was given free in all the other boys' adventure.
Yes. Yeah.
I think it was only 4 pages. But Barry's a lovely job, David. Joined the team. I found myself as the rising star because what drawings came in from the readers were based mostly on my drawings, reworkings of it. But honestly, I was working so hard to meet the deadlines. You've got the stuff there, and you can see how much detail I put in. It's taking me 2 days to pencil and finish inks. I was getting pretty exhausted, but it was a lot of fun, and the kids loved it, which for me at the time was important.
Yes.
As I said, I was working for Boys Adventure, which, let's face it is a boys' adventure. I'm sure you've come across one or two ladies who, but it was mostly boys.
Yes.
It's for years. It passed very quickly until I left before M.A.S.K merged with the Eagle. It
Okay.
didn't last very long because it was two different audiences.
So do you know why that happened? What was the reason for this merger?
I don't know, because the sales were tremendous.
Yeah.
They were going all over the world.
I mean, we had them in Singapore here. I know they've had them in Malaysia. I mean, I didn't see too many when I was younger. I have about I have 3 copies left, but I had a couple more. The rest have gone missing.
Yeah, well, they
so they definitely were in Singapore.
Holland. And,
yeah.
The only thing I didn't like was when they used that block color.
Sorry, what was that? The color?
Block color.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
There's a couple of. I mean, I always found it strange how, like, in some of the comics, you'd have. I think the black and white suits is much better. You get so much more detail in a way. But
I was really annoyed because it happened when I was in an ice station, which was has to be black and white for me. You know, it's snow.
Yeah.
You know, it's moody, snowy landscapes.
Yeah.
Once you put rock color on, I read black and white. You know, because the first I knew of it, I had to buy my own copies all the way. 2000 AD, they used to send you complimentary ones.
Oh my gosh.
Always adventure. No, that's what we're doing. Saturday morning, I go down the news station, pick up my copy. I quickly opened it. Oh my God, what is this?
So who did the coloring? How did they do it? It's from the printing process?
It's just slabs. You know. They put an overlay over the cut film and stuff it on. Why are you doing this? Oh, printer said we could have it free. But there's no reason. But we'll be paying somebody to put the color on. If somebody working in the printer's studio. I mean, I used to use that technique myself quite subtly. But I said, look, you know, the ice station, everything about it screams in black and white. Please, can we stop it? Oh, but with 6 issues have already gone to the printer. No. And of course, they changed. They were straight out of the tin colors as well. The blue, the magenta.
Correct. It was it's very bizarre. But we talk about colors. Why is it within an issue, some of the stories are in color, some are in black and white? How did they go about choosing it? Was it the artist who wanted it that way? Or?
Yeah, this Carlos Pino did most of the color work.
Yeah.
But of course, you had the beautiful covers and center sprays by Sandy James. Oh, they were about his best work.
Yeah.
You could feel the love he put into it. Yeah, I think we talked about that one cover illustration where Sandy's on the cover and Miles Mayhem is telling him to hurry up.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people thought that was me because we both had beards at the time.
I'll get a picture of that. Yeah, I'll put that up.
Yeah, I'm sure.
He did the insides as well, right?
Most of the center sprays were his.
No, they're really beautiful.
They were much better than the Ken Parker. Some of the early box articles not that good.
No, I mean, I think the artwork that came out in the comics, especially like this Switchblade, comparing it to a Switchblade, got it down here, and you see the difference.
Oh yeah.
It's phenomenal. This is on a different level.
I'd never done any professional color work at the time. The first time I did any color was after leaving M.A.S.K, and I used to Lona, the black guy in Wildcat. But Carlos Pino was quick and he's professional. I think Ron Smith did some color work. He was pretty good at it. But it never entered my head. I wanted to be a black and white artist. Okay. All my work for 2000 AD I did black and white. All my newspaper black and white.
What did you use to draw your amazing art?
A lot of people don't believe it. But most of my drawing, apart from like the rude lights, was done with a brush, a Kalinsky sable, and quite a thick one.
Oh, okay.
A number 5.
You're inking?
Yeah.
So like on here, would there be anything?
It's see, obviously the lines are
The lines are not, yeah, but
certainly all the characters, all the faces, and a lot of the subtleties of the vehicles are all done with the Kavinsky.
Oh, yeah, I was going to ask you what your kind of weapon of choice was here, as in what brushes and what pens you use.
The thing is, Robert, you couldn't buy it online. I had to go to the art shop in Cardiff and look at the tip of that brush because they vary tremendously. But when no one was looking, I put my mouth in. So I suck it. One of the shop assistants caught me once and brought me a little jar of water because I test every one. Lick him. But funnily enough, the number 5 is quite thick.
Yes.
And a lot of people thought that, you're using the 2 or 3. But the 2 or 3 didn't hold the charge of it.
Yes.
So you have to keep pausing to reload it. And then before going on to the artwork, I had a piece of I used to work on Bristol board.
Okay.
Card. Yeah. So I had an odd piece which I said test the line. You do that with 2 or 3, there's nothing left. You'll be continually dipping in, testing, dipping in and testing. Using the number 5, it could last for a good maybe 20 minutes.
Wow. So I mean, with my son, I do Warhammer. I use the Age of Sigmar stuff. So we do the painting of the models as well. So I do understand what you mean by looking at the brushes, because you can buy them online, you can buy them from the shop without looking at them, and each brush is very different. They all have this slightly different feel, and I've got like my favorite brushes, which are very old, which are working still well, and I'm dreading when something happens to them because I just can't find that nice tip.
Yeah. My problem with keeping the brushes was that I was using Higgins Black Magic, the American ink, which was very black. India ink, it's not black.
Yeah.
This one, I found out what the American ink is. And I used to buy in quite big bottles, but it used to dry very plastically. So it ended up snapping bristles at the base.
Oh, okay.
You couldn't rinse it out effectively, especially if you've been using it all day.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're not really off the point, are we? Because a lot of people have asked me.
Yeah.
Wow, how do you do that? It's very much old school, but black and white was what I always wanted to do.
So did you prefer the penciling or the inking part? Which one was more challenging, would you say?
Yeah, this.
Because they're very different concepts, right? I guess one is getting the idea, and the other one is finalizing the product, right?
First thumbnail.
Yeah.
It takes 10 to 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And that was the big creative plus. The rest was craftsmanship.
So are you the type of artist who spent a lot of time on your penciling, like get as much detail into it, or did you just use it for outlining?
After they stopped asking for approvals, I didn't have to put quite so much detail in because I just had to make sure that the symmetry was correct.
Okay. Yeah.
So most of the work went into the inking.
Okay. Yeah.
I didn't slavishly do pencil work, but I don't like rubbing out. Over rubbing ruined the texture of the Bristol board. When I worked on 2000 AD, because Slade had to go for approval every week, I did all my layouts on layout paper in pencil, very detailed. Then I put it on a light table, and then just roughly traced out these very detailed finished pencils, and then off into the inks. So I just loved that sensual feel of a brush running against the board surface. If you've over rubbed,
you're going to get all the roughness, and then it'll bleed as well, right? No, I mean I can't imagine the process behind it. I find it just super amazing. So I mean, because Pete Milligan wrote the script, so were you given like a script, a written script, or was it a story?
As I said, it was written by.
It's just a. Just a script, and then you
just a script, no directions
at all, and then you just had free reign on how you wanted to lay it out, how you
yeah, no, different writers and different styles. I mean, I've worked with Alan Grant as well, total free hand. Virtually just gives the dialogue, you know. Okay. Dark Alley, Pat Mills, oh no, reference and a reference and a reference. I wanted to back it up like this and this thing.
Okay. So did you feel restricted that way?
No.
At least give you a bit of direction.
I really didn't at all. With there's Pete Milligan's scripts. Oh no, he might say close up, long shot, medium shot, something like that. Okay. There was one funny occasion. I think it was in the opening sequence of Mayhem's Maelstrom, where the boat, there's a top view of the boat, and he'd just come back from a holiday in the Lake District, and he'd been on this boat. He said, I really want to have a nice view of the boat. And of course we didn't have the internet, we couldn't Google them all. So I think he sent me a couple of photographs he gave them. But then, you know, he wanted detailed aerial view. He said, you haven't sent me any aerial views. But that page worked out very well. After that, I said, listen, can we do a jungle story? Yeah, under a volcano. And I should do one of the fun things. And the Iceland.
Yeah.
I don't really want to talk about Ice Station because I never had one single page of the original art. Because there was a lot of very fine inking going on there, lot of tonal work, you know, with the ice cliffs. But funny enough, it was one of the Fast and Furious films. It was a big chase at the end through the snow in Ladakh, in the Nubra Valley. And wow, it sounds like some of the chase scenes in Ice Station. It was, you know, I put a lot of subtlety, and there's so much got lost back. That colour. Snowflakes, clouds of snow dust. But we all I suppose adventure artists had a letter from Fleetway to say that they were closing their warehouse, and we had 2 weeks' notice. At the end of the month, it was a Friday. If you don't go, we're going to burn it. I said, oh, come on.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's a big deal going from Welsh Valley to London. So my wife and I went up in, this was after I do Lotus, it would be 89. We went up. We stayed overnight with a friend Friday morning. We had lunch. Went to the warehouse. Oh my God! The last scene of Close Encounters, where we're boxing up the Ark of the Covenant.
Yeah.
It was an old railway tunnel. It just went on and on and on.
You're gonna hunt.
And I said, okay, you have to mask. It's up there, and there. Loader works over there, and these up on platforms, and he's allowed her to get to them. And of course, each issue was bagged and wrapped separately in brown paper with everyone's artwork in. So I had to open every packet, take my pages out. I took Loner out first because it was my favorite work. Oh, I wanted to make sure I had it all. As I said earlier, if I'd known how much demand M.A.S.K was, I'd have left Loner be. Because, people, you know, the demand's been overwhelming. But I said to my wife, okay, it's about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. You started the first issue. I started the last issue, and we'll meet up in the middle. 5 o'clock. she'd done 1 year, I'd done 1 year, and the caretaker there said, "Okay, we're locking up, and we're locking up forever."
Oh, no.
I tell you, Robert, on the floor, there was some beautiful, Ron Embleton work from Look and Learn. Beautiful full-colour painted stuff. Because a lot of the MASK guys were getting on a bit. They're older than I am now, some of them. You know, as I said, Joe Coco died while he was working on the film.
Yeah.
So they weren't in... guys like Eric Bradbury, they just weren't up to it. Sandy James, he's living in Scotland. But after MASK folded, no one's offering any work. I was, I still had a good few years of career left. I moved to Mona, went down there for 5 years, and even when monthly, I had for other work. I was working with Barry Tomlinson, and we were doing kids' adventure books, some Hedgehog, stuff, Disney's Gargoyles. I managed to. I said to people, "Sandy's not got any work. You've got some. They're all the Sonic books are made by Ladybird, published by Ladybird. He said, you've got some illustrated novellas lined up. I'll do the covers, get Sandy to do the internals." That's what he did. But he wasn't happy. I'm trying a bloody hedgehog. He was, well, come on, I don't have to tell any of you guys. You just look at his interpretation of Miles Mayhem. Hey, wow, he was so real compared to the cartoon show.
Yeah.
He was really, really good at it. His vehicles were brilliant. So, he just felt his twilight years had come to Sonic the Hedgehog. It's not easy to do because it was spikes. The Mickey Mouse thing where Mickey's years always have to stay in the same place when he turns 10.
Yeah.
It's a Disney rule. And Sonic's spine were an absolute nightmare because the style sheets only gave you left profile, right profile. No, nothing from behind. And of course, if you're doing I was given the Sonic video games. Of course, you do see Sonic running from behind.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I paused the video. I still don't know what's happening. So I made a little plasticine model in blue of Sonic with the spines. And using lighting, my angle points in the right place, I could. I was drawing from that. So Sandy didn't have a clue. Oh. I said, well, you should make a plasticine model. Well, bugger that one. They're not paying me enough. He ended his days in Glasgow Market sketching portraits. I'm sure a lot of you MASK guys probably shed a tear hearing that. Like my son ruined my MASK comics by taking up center spreads, pasting them in a freeze along his bedroom wall. They were great. We didn't get tired of looking at them. And you find little bits, this like this. But tragic story. Really, really lovely guy. And so talented. But he went out of fashion. Well, so did Boys Adventure Comics.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got to say, I'm very pleased that, I was one of the last. I got in with.
I mean, you definitely left a lasting impression on the various readers of the MASK comics. I mean, I have to say, I didn't have that much exposure as a kid to the UK ones. I had a couple because we did have it in Singapore. For some reason, it wasn't all the newsstands. You had to go out of the way and depend wherever my parents went to.
Was happening then.
I had a lot of Dandy and Beano, which was for some reason all. They were in all the various newsstands, but the MASK comics were not that easy to find. But I mean, as an adult, I've read them all. I've got the full set, and I really do appreciate it. I think it's.
I just wish they'd be collected. With I think we discussed this before. Kenneth Parker. Oh, Kenneth Parker not been taken over themselves now.
Yeah. So exactly. Yeah, they were taken over by Tonka, and then now Hasbro.
Yeah, so someone's going to make a really cool MASK movie. Really, really cool one.
Yeah.
Because you can do Fast and Furious with it. And
exactly.
when the penny drops of some Hollywood producer.
I mean, there's talks that it's going about, but they've been talking about it for quite a few years, so we'll know when it comes.
The thing is, cars have not changed really, have they?
Exactly.
Not enough.
And as you said, it's a concept that is believable in some way. I mean,
yeah, especially I think the concept of a mask has been underrated because people need to connect with the brain power more. Bruce Satter's mask, his levitating mask. I really like that. I really like it. Yeah, there's a really, really good movie. Maybe a new season of comics.
Yeah.
I'll be doing it. But one thing I say with pride, our British comic was far superior to the American one. I mean, I got a couple of copies.
So, I mean, talking of the difference between the two, I mean, what I find just already fascinating is a few things. One, you've got the sheer volume of the number of issues that came out. I mean, it's 80 plus your specials, and then you've got a whole bunch of Eagles in the time frame that it was done. And then the artist did everything. Well, in the sense that you did the inking and the penciling, whereas it's all separated. All the roles were completely separated. Yeah. So, and
we had a letter of this.
Yeah. So it's just mind-boggling how you managed to punch out so many issues so quickly, and the number of stories in each one is just mad.
Oh, it was grafting. It was not easy, but I enjoyed that. I really enjoyed it. I was lucky to enjoy it. Yeah, it all came around for me, really, I suppose. But it got to the point where, come the turn of the century, comic work was getting very, very thin. I worked quite a long time with Warhammer.
Yes.
I did the graphic. Well, it's now a graphic novel on his tactics, which is printed so badly because we decided to do it in American format and be condensed. Drawings.
Also, they changed the scale. They changed not just the scale; they actually changed the scale. They changed American. They compressed it.
So everyone's tall and long.
Yeah, always tall. Yeah.
You see, because I did it. I drew it in serial like Charles Dickens. I compared myself to Grace for Inferno magazine, which was like a British square format.
Yeah.
And I did backup features, designed vehicles, space vehicles. In and out through the years, I spent a lot of time working with them. But it wasn't regular work. Then Barry comes back in my life and says, "Hey, David, love your computer color stuff. You want to come and work on the Daily Mirror score a football strip?" I am not the football person. I was very good at computer coloring at that time. It was a regular paycheck. So I can't say I regretted it. It was a long time. It was a very long run. But, I felt I was prostituting myself. I carried on. I was just waiting for a monthly paycheck because we needed the money at the time. As most people do. No matter where you go. So I hope Barry Tomlinson is not going to watch this, because the day he rang me to say that Scorer had been axed, I just said, thank God. I'd already been taking more and more time off. I've been traveling in India. I first took not just a couple of weeks, I took 2 months out. I went to work in Dharamsala as a graphic designer for a Tibetan charity, and ended up teaching Photoshop to Tibetan monks.
Wow.
Yeah, because I wanted to learn. Free classes, because everything was voluntary. And I was going back year after year. So 2 months became 4 months. Easy to find a fill-in. I mean, work was so short. You'd find a computer colorist like that. So when it was finally folded, I'd already arranged to go back to Dharamsala at the end of February. I had a phone call in January and said, right, that's it. My son had finished university. He was working. My daughter living in America. I said, well, I don't need to keep working. I'm 59 now. 6 years, I'll get my state pension, which luckily I did. Last person, to get 65 pension. I just calculated how much savings you got. I said to my wife, yeah, we got enough. Let's go traveling. I went off to did a couple of months back at Dharamsala. I was still in India. The previous year, I had one Indian student in the class who was paying, Bhuhan Chandra, and he was a very notable sitar player. In fact, I just posted today. I posted the International Yoga and Music Festival, which he organises. Every year it's been for real. This year's virtual.
Yeah.
He said to me while I was doing the Photoshop class, "Oh, look, next year, come to Rishikesh. I've got all these street children I look after. You can teach them Photoshop." Sure. You can stay with me in my house. I'll give free yoga lessons. So the 2 months I planned to spend in Dharamsala, going back teaching, ended at 14 months. We just hit the road for 14 months. My artist friend John Howard, his father had died, and his house was to be split with the 4 children, which meant he was living there, but they wanted to sell it. He had nowhere to live. I said, John, here's the keys. Move in. Look after the place. Just pay the bills. Free. So since then, I was traveling almost continuously. I came back, I think he was for June of the following year. By August, my son was working in Mexico, teaching English. He said, oh, look, I'm about to finish it. Come over and join me. Let's go travel around Mexico. And then traveling around, turned into traveling around Guatemala, traveling around Belize, and then it was back to India. And, so I was just yo-yoing, just various places around the world. When I was, it's 1963, so I'd been 11, 12. My Uncle Dave, the guy who helped me to focus on drawing and gave names to the toys, he gave me this magical Bible of the World's Greatest Wonders and said, David, I've never left this country. I want you to see as many places in this book as you can. See them from me. And I kept that promise to him. I made a little tribute video, which I've posted a couple of times on my Facebook to him, because the first plate in the book was the Black Bull Nandi in Madurai. And I got to see that, and I picked up so many stories along the way. I got to get a quick plug. Inspiration behind my novel, DHARMA SUTRA. It's a big chunk of this has come from my journals, writing about Jeffrey Dahmer's.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about Jeffrey. So, I mean, you've just said his inspiration, but when did you actually start penning? When did you decide to sit down and write your first?
Oh, it was 2016. Okay. I'd been kicking. I went to the Gambia in 2001, which this is all in the book.
Yeah.
Simply because for years we've been fly driving around America because my daughter loved America. That's why she's living there now. And because 9/11 came. And we booked this flight with Air Gabon, who stopped flying immediately. And they just gave me a refund. And so, oh, we were the four of us then. Look, we need to go. We'd like to go to Africa still. And the only affordable thing was the Gambia. So we went, and I was very interested in drinking palm wine. I'm very fond of drinking anything, alcoholic. And I asked somebody, do you know palm wine capital? Oh, yeah, just behind the hotel we're staying in. So I met Lucas. And the moment he walked out of the bush in all his palm tapping tatters, you know, I knew that guy changed my life. And he becomes the character, Remus Jallo, in the novel, because we kept going back. You know, we really, really got on so well. We kept like brothers, simply because we were like salt and pepper. We were like, if we put together, we'd be amazing human beings. Because I mean, this guy had these massive palm trees, and all I had was imagination and a drawing ability, which he certainly didn't have. Yeah, so it was, so there's 2001. Summer 2003, traveling around Rajasthan. And we ended up in the Pushkar, the holy city there, which is no alcohol, you know,
Yeah.
It's so many temples. We were walking up towards one hill temple, and I saw this sadhu sitting, smoking his ganja at the entrance of the temple. And he was a spit of Lucas. You know, both had dreadlocks, you know, both smoking the ganja. And I said to Pauline, Lucas would love to be this guy, because he don't work. You know, people give him money, bring him food, bring him the ganja. You know. He gives a little blessing, you know. And that was the first germ, because I thought, well, what if you drop this African Rasta into India, you know, and let him look after himself? I think there's a book in that. But so 2016, before I actually sat down and read it, because all the time ideas are germinating. You know, and I was meeting more and more people. We actually finished the road trip to South Africa we planned in 2001, and you know, Lonely Planet had become a Bible today. But one thing irritated me about Lonely Planet was he said, "Oh, you can't do Botswana on a shoestring." I said, "I bet you can." So myself, my wife, and my son said, "Look, we're going to take a tent with us." We split a 3-man tent, 3 bags, and we took a bus from Johannesburg to Gaborone, then the train, and right up to Zambia and Victoria Falls. It's got to be the one site which really blew me away, But we stopped twice in Gaborone, at the Gaborone Hotel, which at the time was the longest bar in the world. And there we ran into the guy who was the inspiration of Malefi, the assassin, because his story is word for word, for real. This was a guy who had killed people, and he was drunk. He wanted to escort us into the Kalahari the next day. No, we're not going to mix with this guy. We arranged for him to wait at the bus stop for us, and we took the bus an hour earlier, but we had to come back to Gaborone. And he was none too pleased. You said, oh, yeah. But yeah, anyway. It's all in the book. Names are being changed to protect the innocent, or not too innocent,
No.
as Malefi is. And Bob Jatta, the villain, is an amalgamation of 2 real villains I ran into in the Gambia. One of whom really turned me over financially, badly. And, I've been working on this bus fare project for years. because I've been traveling all over India, all over Africa, meeting people who the only traveling they did was to find a job. They were from rural communities. So I was giving them money to take a break, take 2 weeks off, take a week off, 2 weeks off, no holiday pay, and go back, visit the family, visit the wife.
Yeah.
When I finished the scorer work and no regular income, and then I decided, look, I'm going to sell my artwork, and I'm going to put money into this charity and keep helping these people, because a lot of people will then, oh, I want to do this, I want to go here, I want to go there. A lot of the Tibetan refugees I worked with, they were very badly displaced. There was one young Tibetan woman who's married to a Tibetan friend of mine I worked with. I mean, her family were located by the opposite end of India.
Yeah.
It took 4 days by road transport. So I mean, I was giving her money. Then they said, "Oh yeah, but one thing, David," her husband said, "can you not mention our names in the publicity?" I said, "But the publicity raises the money." I never really got to understand how complicated running a charity can be.
Yeah.
So now, after I got cleaned out by the Gambian gangster, the only project I've got going is for this local family here in Thailand. The housing conditions are so bad. I mean, houses burnt down twice since I moved here. Now I've got one really fireproof house. But the dengue fever, we're in central Thailand. You don't get it at the beaches.
Yeah. It's
really bad. It can take 6 months. Your bones start swelling. It's horrible. Anyway, this is going to be my last venture, because I won't have much artwork left anyway, the way things are going. So, I don't know. Really, I think we both hope that one day we're going to see this M.A.S.K movie, preferably not on a Mexican or Thai bus.
Well, if it makes it there, then that's it's done big.
Too right. Well, I'm sure every one of you M.A.S.K guys out there, have got your idea of who should pay who, and the casting is everything. The casting is everything. Who would have thought Fast and Furious would be so mega, really mega? I mean, despite losing one of their main actors. So,
if people want to help out with your bus fare, how can they go about doing that?
Just keep buying the artwork. I got no M.A.S.K artwork left, unfortunately. I pushed it down there.
Are you planning on doing like GoFundMe or Fund Asia or one of these type of things?
I have got my own attempt at self-publishing back from 1991, The Last Planet. I still have all the original artwork for it. I foolishly got involved with a Liverpool company, which are really just two brothers, to publish the first 2 issues. I'd hired a young scriptwriter because I wasn't disciplined enough to write myself. I'd ramble on. And so I hired Simon Davis because he made me laugh and I wanted humor into the comic. And it worked really well. So we went we print 2 times, issue 1 and issue 2. It got spotlight of a month in Diamond's previews catalog. That's big time. It's like telephone direction previews.
Yeah.
Back then, it certainly was. The Liverpool guys only printed 1,500, which sold out like next day. Diamond went ballistic. He said, "We've just given you spotlight of the month. We've got demands from every comic shop in America." you've given me enough to supply about 5 shops. So they did a hasty second reprint, 2,500. Diamond, you guys are jokers. Get out of my lives. So I've got 3 completed issues and halfway through 4. I won't be completing it myself. But I'm perfectly happy. Anyone out there who'd like to take over the art shows, yeah, maybe a fundraiser's called.
Yeah. Would you ever go back to drawing stuff? Or that's
No, it's become too alien to me now. Mostly because I had some rough times, emotionally rough times, especially doing the score. I put too much work into it, from the money I was getting, and what really upsets me is people trying to rehabilitate me, because I don't want to be rehabilitated. It's done. That was my life then.
Yeah.
Life now is I'm halfway through number 4, Jeffrey Dahmer's. Oh God, you can't make a living as a novelist. I can sell 1 page of mediocre art for what I get 6 months royalties from the book. And I'm not the only one. I've joined 120 Facebook book groups. So I've met online. I've met so many authors, mostly self-publishing now. To get your book noticed when there are like 1 million books out there, the best piece of publicity is just die. Let people buy it posthumously. But I'm not planning to do that yet. A palm reader in Delhi's Paragon once told me I'd live to be 89. So I've got another 20 years to go. The worrying thing he told me, and a couple of other Indian fortune tellers, because you meet these guys on the train. You're on the train 12 to 19 hours. I'll read your palm. And 3 of them have said, I see you have 3 children. I said, no, I only have 2. Oh, yeah, but you're going to have 1 in your old age. I said, oh, I can't afford it. I'm afraid the light is failing here.
Yes.
It's
already been, wow, I've really taken a lot of your time.
We've run over an hour, so then you've got a lot of editing to do.
No, but
if anybody wants to touch you, get in touch.
I just link in your Facebook.
Somebody up as your friend. Just say, you're all Facebook friends there, except
Dick.
Oh, yes, Dick.
Yeah. So he sends his regards. I told him I'm having a chat with you today, so he wanted me to specifically say that he thinks of you as the Van Gogh of the comic world.
I know. I mean, Van Gogh.
And I have to agree with him. Yeah.
My art teacher in grammar school, boys' grammar, was given the task of choosing some paintings for the headmaster's corridor, the corridor of death. And he chose Van Gogh's bedroom and a night cafe. Yeah, I loved it. He explained to me how difficult it was to come up with something as original as that. He didn't have the best of lives, did he?
No.
My art teacher, he was more interested in football than art, and he said, listen, he's in Welsh, he said, I've got one piece of advice for you. You are better than me. Now, I was like 15 or something. But when I ever be, I've got this one piece of advice, don't go to art college, they'll try to break you. I went. As I said, I got kicked out anyway. So best qualification you can have. I think Keith Richard and Mick Jagger got kicked out of art college as well. So there you go. I think we'll have to wind up.
Thank you so much. No, I mean, it was lovely.
Maybe we'll do another one sometime.
Yeah, it's awesome to have a chat. I mean, speaking on the phone, or I mean, speaking on text is very different to actually speaking face to face.
Yeah, I don't like speaking on the phone. I like video chatting because I can read your expression.
Exactly.
On the phone, I just wonder, is this guy getting totally fed up with me?
He's like doing something else. He's just got you. He's like reading a novel. Or
At least I can see you're concentrating. Yeah. Well, I'm drinking beer. So cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah, it's been great talking to you.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you for all you've done, and thank you for your time today.
No, it's an absolute pleasure.